Welcome students. Today's lesson is called Elimination using multiplication this time. This one's a little bit more involved. We're going to end up adding our equations together like the last lesson, but first we have to multiply something with one of them to create common coefficients. When you look at these two, the x's do not have common coefficients and neither do the y's. But I can multiply a number with the bottom equation to create common coefficients. And I'm going to make my x's both have a 6 in front. So that means I need to multiply a 2 times everything on the bottom to create a 6x. But I also need it to be a negative, so it will cancel with the one on top. So I'm going to multiply with the negative 2 on bottom. When I multiply everything on bottom by negative 2, I will create negative 6x, a positive 14, that should be a 14y, and then a positive 38. That's how I've changed this equation to this one. Now I'm going to take them and line them up. So let me rewrite the top one. 6x minus 2y equals 10. And then negative 6x plus 14y equals 38. When I put them together, now I can add them. My 6's cancel. Negative 2y and positive 14y make 12y. And then 10 and 38 make 48. Divide by 12. And y equals 4. So my part of my answer is my y. I've got my 4. Now I'm going to take either of my original equations. You don't have to use the one you changed. You can, as long as you changed it correctly. But to be safe, use one of your originals. So I'm going to use the top one. I'm going to plug 4 back in. It starts out with 6x minus 2 times whatever y is equals 10. And we know y is 4. I'm going to put a 4 here. Now we're going to work it out. 6x minus 2 times 4 is a negative 8 equals 10. And we'll add 8. And we'll have 6x equals 18. Divide by 6. And x becomes 3. So our final component is 3. So our point is 3, 4. There's your answer. So now let's go to another example. In this one, when you look at the R's and your Q's, you're going to want to probably change the Q's. You can change the R's if you want. You can pick whichever one you want. I'm going to change the Q on the top equation. And I want it to have a 2 as a coefficient, and I want it to be negative, so I'm going to multiply with the negative 2. So 2 times 9r, negative 2 times 9r makes a negative 18r. Negative 2 times q makes a negative 2q. And then negative 2 times 13 makes a negative 26. Now we can put them together. This makes negative 15r, these are gone, equals a negative 30. Then we can divide by negative 15, and r is a positive 2. Now we're going to plug that r in, one of my original equations. I'll use the top one. 9 times r plus q equals 13. And of course, r is 2. 9 times 2 is 18 plus q equals 13. Subtract our 18 away. And then we'll get q equals negative 5. So now our ordered pair as 2 negative 5. And I think in the last video I told you to list them alphabetically, your variables, if it's not x and y, but actually you list it in the order in which it gives you in the equation. And they list R first, then Q. So you'll put R first, then Q. And that's how you list your answer. All right, let's go to another example. Now this is when it gets just a little trickier because there's not something I can multiply with either equation to create a common coefficient with the other one. I will have to change both of them. I'm going to choose to change my b's. It's kind of like finding the greatest common denominator when you're working with fractions. What is the most common multiple between 2 and 3? And of course it's 6, but one of them has to be a negative. So I'm going to choose to change the top one to a negative, and of course I have to multiply with a negative 3. The bottom one, I'll leave it positive, but I have to multiply it with a 2. So I'm going to make both my b's become a 6. And you could change your a's. The beauty of this is you can change whichever one you want. There's not a definite right way to do it. There's several options. I always look for the easiest. So when we change our first one, we're going to go over here. Negative 3 times 6a makes negative 18a. Negative 3 times 2b is a negative 6b. And negative 3 times positive 2 is a negative 6. Then my next one, 2 times 4a, 8a. 2 times 3b, 6b. And 2 times 8, 16. Now I can put them together once I created coefficients that will cancel out. Negative 18 and 8a makes negative 10a. These are gone. And then negative 6 and 16 make 10. Divide by our negative 10. A is negative 1. Now we're going to plug that negative 1, and you can use one of your original equations. I'll go ahead and use the top one. So it'll be 6 times negative 1 plus 2b equals 2. This makes negative 6 plus 2b equals 2. Add 6, and I'll have 2b equals, that's a b, sorry, 2b equals 8. And then 8 divided by 2 is 4. So my b is 4. So it lists a, b first, so it'll be negative 1, 4 as my ordered pair and my answer. I'm going to do another one just like that. In this situation, I think I'm going to choose to change my x's to have the common coefficients. So my top one, I have to multiply with a 2. I'm going to make it a negative 2. And on the bottom, I'll use the positive 5. One will have to be negative, one will have to be positive. Now I'm going to do it crossways again. So negative 2 times 5 is negative 10x. Negative 2 times negative 3 is a positive 6y. And negative 2 times 6 is negative 12. We'll do it on the bottom. It becomes a positive 10x, a positive 25y, and then a negative 50. Now I did create opposite coefficients, so they're gone. 25 and 6 makes 31 y's, and then we'll add this to make a 62 and negative 62, and then we'll divide by 31, and y equals a negative 2, because 2 31s make 62. So there's our y. I'm going to plug y in my original equation. I'll use the top one again. So it's 5x minus 3 times y, and y is negative 2, So it's 5x plus 6 equals 6. Subtract my 6 away, I'll have 5x equals 0. So that's easy. X is 0. So our ordered pair is 0, -2. And the name of this game is just trying to determine what number you can multiply to create variables with the same coefficients, except opposite. And you can do, there's a number of ways you can do this. Just play around with it. Now on your paper, you are going to have a word one like this. Works the same kind of way. 8 times a number plus 5 times another number is -13. Just write out what you see. Then it'll say the sum of the two numbers, so the same two numbers you used, and it's the sum of them, just x and y, is 1. What are the numbers? Well, before you can do these, you have to multiply one of them to create common coefficients. And in this case, I would multiply the bottom one by a -8. So you can create an equation that will cancel out with the top one. -8x minus 8y equals -8. Put the other one underneath it and put them together. X's are gone. You'll end up with -3y equaling, and this would become a -21. When you divide -21 by -3, y is a +7. Once you get y, then you can plug it in, of course, the bottom one. X plus 7 equals 1. Subtract 7. And x is -6. So your two numbers are -6 and 7. There's your answers. Now, if you are holding out to the end of this video, then you're going to get the answer to the last problem on your workbook page. So this is only for those that watch the video to the very end. They're going to get help on the very last problem. Tricia and Byron are washing and vacuuming cars to raise money for a class trip. Tricia raised $38 washing 5 cars and vacuuming 4 cars. And Byron raised $28 by washing 4 cars and vacuuming 2 cars. Find the amount they charge to wash a car and vacuum a car. Well, those are our variables. We've got washing a car and vacuuming a car. So we're going to use W and V. We're going to start with Tricia first. We know she raised $38, so she washed 5 cars, so 5W, and then she also vacuumed 4, and she made 38. Then we have Byron, who raised 28 by washing 4 cars and vacuuming 2 cars, and of course he made 28. Now once these are set up, we can multiply one of them to create common coefficients. I'm going to multiply with the bottom. And I'm going to multiply a -2 to create a -4v. So when I multiply that out, I'll get -8w minus 4v equaling a -56. And then we can write the top one underneath, plus 4v equals 38. Now this will create a -3w. The v's are gone. And then we have to subtract these two because they're opposite signs. And you'll get a -18. Divide that -18 by -3. And so they washed 6 cars. And once you get your how many cars they washed, or I mean they didn't wash 6 cars, they charged $6 to wash the cars. And then once you find out how much they charged for washing, then you can plug that in. I'll do it with the top equation. 5 times 6 plus 4v equals 38. 5 times 6 is 30 plus 4v equals 38. Let's subtract 30. And we'll get 4v equals 8. 8 divided by 4. They've charged $2 to vacuum them. And it can't be a negative, obviously. They didn't charge negative dollars, so they both have to turn out positive. And there's the answers to the last question on your workbook page. I know it made it longer, but it would be worth the wait if you waited. See you in class.